Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack. I'm a certified life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I want you to know that no matter your season or circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life. And I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 34, a conversation with Lacey Jones. Lacey Jones is a fellow life coach that I have had the opportunity to get to know and to talk with, and I'm so excited to share this conversation with you. She says that she has seen and felt the direct impact of the pandemic on the social and emotional health of our children. She believes that mothers and teachers have carried much of the responsibility for helping today's youth navigate an uncertain world, and oftentimes at the expense of their own mental and emotional health. Her goal is to buoy mothers and teachers up so that as they find peace and clarity within themselves, they can then foster and develop peace, clarity, and confidence within the children that they care for. And she believes that as we raise confident mothers and teachers, we too raise the future of our society. So here is my conversation with Lacey Jones. I'm going to let her introduce herself. And so, Lacey, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm Lacey Jones. I am a certified life coach through the Life Coach School. I'm up in Seattle with my family. My husband and I, we have 5 boys. And we entered kind of the thick of the teenage years during the pandemic and during quarantine. And so that had quite a big impact, I think, on me. I was working full time in my corporate job and trying to do remote school for the 5 boys, and while also sitting at my desk getting my work done. And I found that that was a little bit crazy and it kind of amplified teenage years for my boys and the experiences that they were having. And I needed to kind of help guide through that. So that's kind of who we are, where we are now. That's a big piece to our puzzle. And that's a big piece to the puzzle of why I'm coaching and what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So what are the ages of your boys? What's the range?
Okay, so my oldest is 17, and then they kind of stair step about every 2.5 years. So we've got 17. I have to get this right, but I have to think about it.
Yeah, you have to do the math.
Exactly, right? So 17, almost 15, and then 12, 10, and 7.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, you are in the thick of it.
Yes.
The thick of it.
Yes, we're learning with each new day about different situations that we weren't quite prepared for, but we're figuring out and we're navigating them.
Well, and don't you think you just find that you've done you're doing a 17-year-old, but when your next one turns 17, it's going to be different.
Oh, completely
It's a
different
totally different child. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, I used to think like, oh yeah, I've got this. And then the next kid would hit that age and you're like, no, this is completely different than what I thought.
Yeah, it's very different. And what works for kid 1 does not work for kid 2.
Yeah.
And so I've got to kind of manage myself so I can figure out that best role to play with each child.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So how did you come about to coaching? Like when was it? What led you to that?
Okay. So when I was pregnant with our youngest, so that would have been 7 or 8 years ago, we moved as a family over to Seattle, and we landed kind of in the middle of a big melting pot of family dynamics that I was not emotionally prepared for. So we have 5 boys. We each come from boy families. So I have 5 older brothers, no sisters, and my husband is one of 7 boys. So we're very heavy on that gender in our family. And as a result, I was raised, I don't know, maybe someone could have been raised a little bit differently, but emotions weren't a big deal, right? And we didn't take offense to a lot of things. We were pretty self-sufficient when it came to our emotional maturity. And then I moved over here into a melting pot of emotions, and everyone had an opinion and everyone had a different opinion. And it kind of threw me for a loop because I wasn't ready for that. And I remember I'm a creator. I like to craft. I like to create. I remember sitting up in our little room creating something, and I was just listening to podcasts. And I randomly stumbled into, I think at that time it was Brooke Castillo's, and I think Jody Moore was just getting started in her podcast. Kind of the early episodes, I binged through all of them. And to me, as I listened, it just made sense. I loved what they were teaching. I loved how they had a little bit different methods of teaching that model, but it's the same building blocks and same principles. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, it was just like, oh, thank you. Someone understands me and can give me tools on how to process this and move through this.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I think oftentimes when I'm talking to people that have become life coaches, right? It begins with a podcast. It begins
Yeah.
with finding someone that is speaking this new way that we haven't heard before, but yet it feels so true. It feels normal and natural. It feels like we've known it in a way,
Amen.
right? Like at
Yes.
some level, it's like, oh, I get this. I get this. So, yeah. So you heard this and then you're like, I got to do this.
Yeah, and it's interesting. That was about 7 years ago, and I was like, "Okay, I need to take this to women. I need to share it. I need to teach it." And at the time, I was hosting craft nights for women. I could see a huge need for it, so I built a business plan, and I wanted to combine a craft night with coaching so that we could I just think there's something in creating, right?
Hmm.
And when you create but also hear something, I think there's a stronger connection in remembering what you heard and applying it to your life. I just really like to have my hands busy, whether it's like sewing a quilt and watching a Netflix show or listening to a podcast. I think there's a stronger connection there. So I had built a business plan of, okay, we're going to host craft nights, we're going to teach coaching at the same time, and we're going to just take off and run. And then life had a little bit different plan for me and had to take a side detour to help support our family, and went on to a wonderful, beautiful corporate job that I loved that came out of the blue and built into a beautiful community of working with other women. And then when that door closed or felt like it was time to close that chapter in my life, which was earlier this year in March. It was a little bit of a challenge, like a challenging time to actually decide, wait, this is good and beautiful, but it's not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I need to say thank you. I need to close this chapter, and I need to really dig into my coaching 100% and start going that way. And so at this point, that's where we're at. I had to walk away and close that chapter, and that was not an easy decision, but it's what was right for our
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. What is it that you think helped you make that decision to
You
make that transition?
I, without knowing it, was being coached by the people that I was reaching out to. I felt inspired. I was having these kind of thoughts of like, wait, I think my time here is done. And I was feeling kind of inspired to reach out to certain people. One of them was my brother that I hadn't spoken with for a while, and I thought I was reaching out to him for one thing. And when we talked, was just within a couple of minutes, he's like, "Okay, wait, what's the real reason? Let's dig into that." And he helped me kind of dig in, and I realized, wait, no, this is what's supposed to happen. And he really coached me without even knowing it, right?
Hmm.
And so I felt that I was inspired to reach out to certain people. They shared their stories of how they had to make big decisions that didn't make sense because it did not make sense financially for me to make that choice. And my brother shared their family's experience of making a similar choice and how on the other side of that decision, how beautiful it was. They decided to move cross country, so that his wife could attend law school, and they have 10 kids. So they moved to Boston, and he said, "This is your Boston moment," and on the other side of it is just beautiful, and there's some big blessings over here, so you've gotta let go, and
Mm-hmm.
that was a pretty big moment to
Yeah.
kinda come to terms with.
Awesome. I think that's true. I think people come in and out of our life,
Mhm.
right? And they share what we need in that
Oh,
moment
yes.
if we're watching for it. So I love that you it probably felt a little bit scary
Oh,
to
it
take
was very
that step,
scary.
huh?
Yes,
And
it was
it
very
was
scary.
scary.
And I would have to, like, make a choice of, yes, whether or not I'm gonna do this. And then it was, am I going to just maybe go part-time with work and part-time with coaching, or am I gonna go goodbye 100% to work and full-time coaching? And when I would make those decisions and then like, there was so much peace once I would make a decision. Then I would come to the next one. Okay, what's the date? My last date of work. I want to carry us through this month or this. And then I realized it needs to be now. And
Mm,
that was very scary. It was way sooner than I expected. But there was a lot of peace with each small decision that led to the final big one.
yeah. And I think that's a powerful thing right there to pause on is this idea. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed by the decision at the end, like the ultimate decision, right? And we do have this, we describe it as a big decision,
Yeah.
which can be really scary and keep us from really deciding.
Yes.
But I love that you just took every step and you made this decision and then the next right decision and then the next and the next. And I think that's really how to do it is just a little bit at a time.
And the peace came not at the end after having made all of the decisions, but
Right.
with each step of the way. I
Yeah.
would say, "Okay, I need to put this out there. I need to start contacting people at work and letting them know, I was in a managerial position, so I had to kind of prep some people that this was gonna be happening, and with each phone call, after the fact was just like, "Okay,
Yeah.
like, this is gonna happen. This is
Yes.
cool."
Yeah.
So,
Love it. I love that.
mhm.
So as I was looking over your bio and just reading through that, you kind of talk about working with parents of boys. Is that
Yes.
kind of like your focus, or tell me a little bit about that?
So I have a huge place in my heart for mothers and parents of boys. I mean, specifically mothers, right? And for everything, I know sometimes I kind of focus a little bit on that pandemic moment, quite a bit, but that really affected how mothers had to respond and the work that we needed to do for our teenagers. And so I want to be a resource for the mom of the teenage boy who is having to navigate challenging experiences and emotional experiences, and maybe they're making choices that we never thought they were going to make, or it veers off of a life plan, right? And
Mhm.
I just want to just hug that mom and be like, okay, it is going to be okay, we can work through this. You actually are the best resource for that child, and it's in you. I just I just want to work with you and help you see that you're the best one. And
Mhm.
let's do this. We're going to do it together. You're going to have a lot of questions, right? And you're going to have a lot of doubts and worries and concerns, and that's okay. Let's work through it and help you to find your peace so that you can guide your child.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So is that, would you say that is kind of that epiphany came to you during this pandemic and all that is associated with that? That's when this this realization came to you, is like this is where I'm needed.
Yes. And I would say that there's a lot of exploring there. of like, okay, where am I needed? What is my resource? What do my unique qualities bring to the table and how can I use them? And so I would say, yeah, looking at, well, what did I just go through? What are we experiencing with each of our kids and wishing we had more help with, but we're unable to find the help. And there were just moments where I needed to mother and parent, and they were outside of my comfort zone, but something would happen and I would either do something or say something, and it seemed to be like a good idea of what I said or did. Like it seemed to create help for the child or, for my husband or myself. And I would just sit back and realize, wait, I would not have chosen that response or those words to use if I hadn't have coached myself to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would say previous to coaching, I was very much a drag these kids along and they're going to do what I say and
Yeah.
we're going to have this beautiful, perfect life, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we're going to show them exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah.
But I think I found a lot of peace in allowing the child to be who they are with guidance from me. And then it becomes more of a tandem. Let's walk beside each other and figure this out together.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I think that's so beautiful. And I think too, like we're either dragging, right, or resisting,
Yeah.
right? There's and showing up in a way that we don't really like we just aren't our best selves when
Yes.
we're trying to drag people or push people or resist what
Yeah.
is. And so I think there's a lot of freedom that comes when we can see that we're on the same team walking together. Like you said that. I love that.
How many times have I said that to my child within the last couple years? Okay,
Yeah.
listen, we are on the
We're
same
on the
team.
same team.
I, I know what you want. I know what I want. We're on the same team. We can work on this and we can get there.
Yeah.
We're on the same team. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. So as you're working with parents,
Mhm.
as you know, as they're trying to navigate raising these kids, right? They want to raise these kids, but they also want to um create peace and clarity within themselves, right? So
Yeah.
what do you see as you work with these moms or parents? What is their biggest struggle? What do you notice?
I think that there's a lot of fear right now. There's a
Mm,
lot of fear for everything that is being thrown at children and youth out in the world. They do have to make a lot of choices and not just easy peasy choices. There's a lot of garbage out there that
mhm,
the kids have to navigate through. They have to process, they have to experiment with some of it to come to understand what works best for them to get them where they want to be and where their parents are trying to guide them to. So there's a lot of fear, I believe, for moms that if they don't do this correctly, they're going to lose their child or
mm,
they're going to lose the relationship with their child because they just want to protect that kid from everything that's out there just demanding attention from our kids.
mhm,
And so I would say first you kind of have to process the fear and understand where it's coming from and the stories that we've told ourselves about it. Some of
mm,
those stories have been ingrained in us from our childhood and our growing up years. We do live in a little bit different world um, than some of us did growing up. And so those stories just need to be looked at and evaluated as
mm,
to whether or not they're creating fear or peace or clarity. So that piece to the puzzle. And then I would also say there's this kind of, oh no, I'm doing this wrong. I'm going to do this wrong. Right.
mhm,
And I'm going to mess up my kid. And my goal as I work with moms is like, no, you're the one. I hesitate to say the perfect mom because
mhm,
no one's perfect, but in an essence, you are the exact person that your child needs.
mhm.
They were sent to you for a
Yeah,
reason.
Yeah.
You've got a set of skills. And if we can clear out any sort of fear or thoughts of doubt or, um, just lack of self-esteem, right? If we can clear
Mhm.
through that, we can get to the beauty and the reason why you're so perfect for this kid to guide him
Mhm.
through.
Yeah.
So kind of
Yeah.
clearing up and like, listen, you got this. Let's trust your gut.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. In your bio, you said boy, mother, boy.
Yes, to
Can't say
buoy.
it. Buoy mothers up. That was a tongue
Yes.
twister. Yeah, right. Just kind of be their cheerleader, but
Mhm.
also be honest with them, right? Like you can do this, but this thinking isn't serving you.
Yeah.
There's another way to look at this. And
Yes.
so I think that is so beautiful. And I think too that it is so easy to see what we're doing, and when our kids are struggling or when they're choosing differently, right? It's so easy to go back to ourselves
Hmm.
and go, oh, if I wouldn't have done this,
Yeah.
or if I had done this, then this child would be doing something different. And we carry that heavy load
Hmm.
of blame and shame on ourselves when it's not necessary.
It's going to slow us down if we do. And I call them like the shoulda, woulda, coulda, right?
Mhm.
And I don't want to look back on my life and think, oh, I should have done this. I could have done this. And, what if I had done this? No, you didn't, right? Let's move forward. This is the situation. These are the circumstances that you have right now. This is the child that you have right now. How are you, and this is another key point, is how are you going to clean yourself up as an individual, as the mom, so that you can more effectively share your thoughts, your opinions, your reasonings, your guidance with your child? Because if you start to share your thoughts and opinions and you're not clean, mentally and emotionally, and you start coming from, a place of fear or fear of rejection, or just fear is a big thing that comes up, I think.
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
you start trying to guide from a place of fear, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So when you clean yourself up first, you can be a better teacher and leader.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because it's like I think some parents would be like, "Oh, I got to get my child help. I
Yeah.
need to fix them. I need to show them the right way to do this. I need to," right? And that fear and that desperation
Yeah.
uh, isn't serving them, and as a result, yeah, we aren't showing up as our best, which our kids read that. Our
Yeah. And
kids,
you're going to say something, right? You're going to say
yeah,
something, or it's going to be in a tone that really isn't going to help the
yeah,
situation. I
yeah.
have found several times I'm a pretty feisty person. I'm a pretty opinionated person. I'm pretty feisty, and I'm going to put my kids in their place, right? When they need to be. But there's not like, that works sometimes, not all the time. And I would gather that can't be my guiding principles to be feisty and putting people in their place all the time. That
Mhm.
that soft answer really does help. I
Yeah.
remember one week we were studying in the scriptures, and I think it was Proverbs. Correct. I'm not a scriptorian,
Mhm.
but so if that was incorrect, I'm not sure. But we had already know the soft answer turneth away wrath.
Yeah.
Heard it a million times before. However, in one situation with a child, I wanted to dig in. I wanted to give them the business and tell them my complete opinion. And as I coached myself through that, I was able to approach it in a completely different way. And it was a soft answer compared to what it would have been.
Uh-huh.
And I just sat back almost and just watched what happened. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that was a much better approach. My child received it better. I offered it in a way that was maybe more compassionate, and we didn't get our defenses up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, a
So
lot of
good.
self-coaching goes on over here.
Yeah. So, so good. Well, and I think that's the thing. It's like, it isn't that once you learn all these things, you have it figured out and then it's easy. No, it's just a resource. It's like it's a practice. It's a
Yes.
daily practice to show up more intentionally in your life. And I think for me, that has been the most powerful thing because I think for so long I believed that if other people, like I said earlier, if other people would change or see it my way,
Yeah.
right, then it would be fine if they would just do that. But they don't.
Yeah.
And when you can really step back and take ownership for like, no, like, how am I going to be?
Mhm.
Who will I appreciate being at the end of this?
Yes.
Right? Because in the moment, right, the anger feels needed and necessary,
Mhm.
but we don't appreciate that when we're done. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
great when it's over.
Yeah. And if we come at our kid from a place of anger and frustration, eh, we miss an opportunity to grow and kind of be that vulnerable self with each other. And
Mhm.
I I would say that I'm not saying there isn't a place for anger. There isn't a place for frustration. Those are very real human emotions, and I've had to process them. And I've had to own up to the fact of, okay, right now I'm super frustrated. What in the world is going on in my body right now? Or for me, I'm feeling really defensive right now. And I can see that it's affecting how I respond to certain people. Okay. Why am I so defensive? What is it feeling like in my body? And how can I just sit with that for a moment? That's something that was very new to me, I think, with coaching was here's this platter of emotions, and we're not just going to ignore them because they're going to be in our life. So let's learn to process them. And I just remember early on of moving over here, in between family and church experiences, there was a lot of emotion going on. And I'm like, what is with this? What is with all the emotion? I've never felt so much emotion before. And it just has served me to sit with some of them sometimes.
Mhm.
I know that within these last couple of months of making a transition away from my previous support group at work, even that was a 4-year experience, and I have some beautiful relationships there, but I wasn't talking to those people day in and day out, and the loneliness crept in. And so one day I sat down and I just cried. My husband's like, "What's going on? Like, you don't cry." Like, "No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be lonely today. I need to feel it." Judgment came up the other day and I felt myself resisting it. And I said, no, what's going to happen? I'm going to allow myself to be judgmental now.
Yeah.
Let's just process that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. I would say I had a similar experience. I didn't grow up really talking about feelings or
Mhm.
you just kind of rubbed your wound and moved on, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so once this whole world of emotion opened up to me, it's like, no, like there's not a good or bad emotion.
Hmm.
They just are. And if we can just face them, then they just don't have power over us. They're actually healing us. They're teaching us.
Yes.
They're showing us a better way. Yeah, I
I
love that.
liked how you said that. They do offer healing and they offer teaching.
Mhm.
They're to be
If
learned
if
from.
we'll listen to them, right? If we'll take the time to
Yeah.
learn from them later after we've processed them.
Yes, exactly.
Right. I love it. So, as you work with these parents, and as you're, in this conversation with the listeners that are with us, what is a nugget or something that you can share with those parents out there that are feeling depleted or feeling, struggling in this season of life where they're trying to raise these kids. I loved your Instagram is raising confident mothers,
Yes.
right? And maybe they're not feeling so confident right now. What is something you could share that you would either a tip or a tool or just something you want them to know?
So with that, the the act of raising something is to elevate, right? My goal is to help bring mothers up and to elevate them. And I think over the last couple of years, there's been a healthy dose of emotional burnout, right? Moms have been stretched and the internal resources have a little bit, they've been a little depleted, right? And so I would say do the work on you first. That is going to be so valuable because if I can get in and work with you and we can raise you up to a level of confidence and maybe restore that confidence that was previously there. I'm sure there's times in your life where you felt more confident in your capabilities. So if I can get in there and help access that confidence again to clean up some of the heavier emotions that aren't serving you anymore and stories. When a mom is confident in who she is and her abilities and the experiences that she's had in life, knowing that they are to serve her moving forward, and then she can then serve her kids with those experiences, that's really how we change the world. We heal the mom. She takes it to the family goes out into society and can be advocates for change in a healthy manner. So take that time to work through any emotional burnout and trust your gut. That get your own back, right? That you can make choices that will benefit your family.
Yeah, I love that. I think it really does come down to choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So often we show up in those relationships reactionary, and if we can take the time to pause and deliberately choose a different way, that's where change happens.
Yes.
Yeah, is being deliberate and intentional. I love
Yes.
it. I love
Yep.
it. All right. Well, it's been such a pleasure, Lacey. Thank you so much for
Yes.
coming on and sharing your message. I think it's an important one. I think that if we can strengthen ourselves, we have more to give those we love. So
Yes.
I
Well,
love it.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so good. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you would share it with your friends and family and leave me a rating and review. If you'd like to learn more about what life coaching is, please schedule a free discovery call with me where we can work together through something that's causing you a problem. Just go to my website, seasons-coaching.com, and you can also find information about my Seasons of Joy one-on-one coaching program and my Seasons of Joy community. Have a joyful week, and I'll see you next time.